Welcome back to Marx Library Live, week 7? 8?
8?
Week 8.
I think it's week 8. I don't know. One of those weeks. Welcome. Today, we should probably say, I always forget who we are. Okay. Beth and Shepherd. I'm the Arts and Humanities Librarian at Marx Library.
And Stephanie Eversard. I'm the Social Sciences Librarian, also at the Marx Library.
Yeah. So, welcome back. On this little, live thing, we talk about pretty much all things library related. It's kind of like a coffee clutch for all things library. Except there's no coffee today. We are running low.
Look,
I know.
Neither of us brought coffee.
Which is very weird. Obviously, we were very intent about what we're talking about today. As you can see, we both have notes, which is a rarity.
Yes, but we have notes because this is a very important topic, and we wanted to make sure that we covered everything that we thought, or as much as we could.
As much as we could, right? And so we'll just go ahead and jump right in because it may take us a little bit longer than the 15 minutes because we want to make sure we devote an appropriate amount of time to it. So, but we've talked about how important it is, but what are we talking about today, Stephanie?
Today we're going to talk about how the library supports diversity and inclusivity.
Inclusion.
Yes.
Yeah. And you guys who've been kind of on campus for a while know that this is one of the university's big initiatives, right? It's part of our strategic plan, our 5 pillars of awesomeness. And it's something that the library within the past couple years, really I guess the last 2 years, has really taken as, I guess, a mission to make sure that we're a campus leader in this area.
Right. So we're working hard to identify ways that we can do that better. And we're also making sure to continue to do the things that we feel like we're doing well already.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about how we're trying to support that mission.
Yeah. And so when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we really we looked at the university's definition, but Stephanie and I came up talking about this. We kind of talked about, for us, the definition is really representing those underrepresented populations, right? And when we talk about that, we talk about things like gender identity, sexuality,
race, religion.
We also, and those are the kind of ones that people always talk about, but we also want to think of, especially in an academic institution, we also want to think about physical ability and also mental ability too, so intellectual diversity, as well as just the things that we think about often when we talk about diversity, right? So that's what we mean when we say that we're interested in aspects of diversity, all of those things, right? So we're going to talk about, we kind of broke it down into 3 major ways that the library supports or makes tries to represent, again, these underrepresented populations.
So we're going to talk about how we do that through our collections. We're going to talk about how we do that through our programming, and then we're going to talk about how we do that through the actual physical space in the library.
Yes! Okay, so let's start with collections, right? Because that is pretty important to a library.
Yes.
Right?
Right, so when we say, for non-library people, when we say collections,
we feel slang, right?
we mean the stuff in the library, like the books, the articles, the movies, the stuff that you use.
Yeah, like the things that... the intellectual content of the library, right? Yeah. The paper and the not paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff you read.
The stuff you watch.
Or listen to.
But consume.
There you go.
Not the food. Not Starbucks. That's not collections. But, yeah, that kind of stuff. So when we talk about librarians, we make it, in our collections, we make it a mission to represent a variety of voices. But Stephanie and I were talking about this in planning for today. And when we say a variety of voices, we mean we want lots of perspectives represented.
Multiple perspectives.
Right. So we...
other than just a single or the most popular or the most well-accepted perspective.
And as librarians, we are intent upon not making our biases show up in the collections at all, right? Because we all... unfortunately come to the table with a perspective of something, right? And so our goal is to make sure that that does not influence the collection in any way.
Right, and so that if someone comes to the library, they can find information about pretty much any perspective, not just the ones they're already familiar with.
Right, and often those tend to be the ones that are the loudest or most mainstream of those voices, right? But Stephanie and I were talking about this. We want to make sure that all voices are represented, but represented in context.
Right. So when you're thinking about multiple perspectives, not all perspectives have the same amount of evidence supporting them.
Right.
And
Scholastic rigor.
Right. And so while we do want them to be discussed, we want to make sure that they're discussed in a way that, like Beth said, provides context and makes them make a lot more, I guess, sense. Like,
yeah, so like we were talking about
Yeah.
kind of an example. Maybe an example would be good, right? Like
Yeah.
you brought up or we were talking about, there's two really good examples for this, right? One is Holocaust denial people, right, who suggest that the Holocaust never happened, that it's made up, it's a conspiracy theory, right? I would never put a Holocaust denial book written by, like, on the shelf as a legitimate piece of like scholastic work, right? Because it has no scholastic credibility. However, it's important to you as a student of the Holocaust to know that those exist, right? So I'm far more likely to make sure that that context gets represented in a scholar of Holocaust denial work, right? So talking about it within the context of the historical event. Another good example Stephanie brought up, which is not my people, but flat earthers.
Yeah, flat earthers, which actually there are quite a few people who believe the Earth is
completely flat.
And so it would be important for someone doing research in this area to know that such people exist, what their viewpoints are, why they believe this. But again, I wouldn't put a book contending that the Earth is flat
on the shelf
because it has no
scientific background, like
Right.
basis, right?
But in a book that's maybe discussing, sometimes it comes up when you're talking about things like climate change, for instance.
Right.
Or,
who knows? Like, it could be like
alternative
community group.
Right.
Who knows, right?
Then it has some context, and so you can talk about the way, what these people believe without seeming to promote those beliefs.
Right, because it's our job to make sure that the stuff on the shelf represents view, but that also maintains scholastic rigor, right? Which is why we often in an academic library, you're not going to see a whole lot of kind of those pop political kind of books.
Or pop psychology.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's important for us as librarians that those voices get represented, but they get represented in ways that don't obfuscate the truth.
Yes, I think that's an excellent way of putting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to do, as you can imagine, right? Which is why we take a lot of care in what we put on the shelf. Anything else we want to say about collections?
Well, yeah. So another thing that we take great care to do is make sure that the collection is kept up to date by removing things that are outdated, irrelevant, wrong.
Gotta go!
And that's especially true in my fields.
Yes, mine.
No, I guess if, like historical discoveries or something like that.
Right, and like it's important that all areas of like, like new criticism gets represented, but not as much as, say, like some of your areas.
Right, so we came up with a great
education.
Yeah, which is not my area.
But a good one.
It's a really great example. So if you have a book from, like the mid-1960s on how to teach children with learning disabilities, it's going to look very different from a book that was published this year on teaching children with learning disabilities.
Right, we're learning difference, right? Even the languages have, the language has changed, right? So we would want to make sure that you as a second-year education student didn't go upstairs and grab that book and go like, oh, it's in the library. It's got to be a good source to use, and then that would be troublesome, right? Right.
Or, I mean, at the very least, it's just bad.
Yeah, it's just bad.
It's just bad.
It's just bad.
And it could even cause a lot of harm.
Yeah, more harm than good, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, we want to make sure that stuff is current. Current.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
Again. And accurate.
Yeah, so again, goes back to that idea of...
Right, so if we find something that contains inaccuracies, we remove it.
Yes, which is why science books get weeded a whole lot faster than, like, history books, for example. All right,
so
let's talk about programming.
Let's move on to programming.
So how do we support diversity and inclusion through our programming?
Okay, well, this is something we're going to ask for some suggestions because I think we could do more of it.
We could.
But right now we do have a few things that we do. We have the art exhibits, which often are used to the art exhibits and the archives. Exhibits.
So like right now we've got a really cool exhibit on a minority in Mobile. It's about Jews and Jews in the history of Mobile. It's awesome. It's an awesome exhibit on the third floor. So again, kind of an underrepresented potentially population. And then there's also the...
Matriarchs of the Porch Creek Indians.
Right, on the third floor in the art gallery, right? So, again, two kind of underrepresented populations. So we try to represent that kind of stuff.
Right, and we do displays downstairs. The PR committee does displays for things like
Women's History,
Native American Heritage Month, Black History Month.
Yeah.
To try to draw attention to the resources we have that represent these groups. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Stephanie and I were talking, and we were like, well, we could do a better job as a library. Again, trying to represent marginalized voices, but also better representation of our campus as a whole, right? Because we all aren't the same. We don't all look the same. There's lots of difference represented on campus, which is part of the really cool thing about an academic environment, right? So we want to do a better job.
So we are open to suggestions. If there is something that you'd like to see us do, let us know.
We're all about taking suggestions.
Yeah.
And even if it's kind of a little bit uncomfortable, right? Like we
were talking about this earlier. We feel like it's a library's job to make people confront things that might make them uncomfortable if
difference is uncomfortable for you, right? But it's the world. So we're going to kind of slowly move you into that, right?
Our job is to provide you with information. How you deal with it is
up to you. But we also host events from on campus. Like we just had a speaker talk about African American women's medical history, which is super interesting. So again, another potentially not mainstream voice. So we try, but again, we want more, I guess, representation of y'all in our library. So like what y'all are doing, and that kind of moves us into space, right?
Yes. So this kind of like encompasses everything in the collection and events, but we want the library to be considered a safe space. And what was the other word we used?
We used safe and accommodating. Okay, we're back.
I think we're back. Okay.
Safe and accommodating.
Yes.
So we already consider ourselves a safe space, right? Well, we hope you think so. We think so, but we hope you do too.
What we mean by a safe space is where people of, all the things we talked about, different races, gender identities, religions, physical and intellectual abilities, where they feel comfortable in the library. They don't feel as though their identity is threatened or
questioned in
any way. And if you ever feel as though you are not being, that you do not feel safe or you do not feel accommodated in this space,
please let
us know. Because there are lots of things that we might not notice.
We talked about that in preparing for this thing. Like, as someone who's able-bodied, it may be difficult for me to recognize that something about the space of the library may be really uncomfortable for someone who might be in a wheelchair or has a visual impairment. So I try to think that way, but it's hard for me to think that way. So let us know. Please don't hesitate.
And people have let us know. We suspect that there are probably more problems that we're not able to identify. We can't fix a problem if we don't identify it.
So let us know. And so that kind of goes with the space, right? Becoming more and more accommodating. We've made efforts. We're continuing to make efforts because you can imagine it's an old building. So that proves to be complicated and just getting in and out of the building, right?
And since we're already asking for feedback, if there are other areas where you would like to see improvement, maybe there's a part of the collection that you feel like you're underrepresented. That's something we work really hard to do. But again, we might have blind spots.
Well, I know we do, right?
Well, yeah, we definitely have blind spots. So, if in your research or simply just looking for books that represent you, let us know if you feel as though it's inadequate.
Yeah, let your librarian know. No one's gonna, there will be no negative feedback at all.
No.
We'll probably be like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really, this, again, it's not just Stephanie and I that feel this way. Everybody that works here feels this way.
It's one of the most important things that we do.
Yeah, it's kind of a foundation of our job. Yeah, let doctors have no harm. This is kind of our version of the do no harm. Right. And so that kind of, we're doing so good with time.
We are, yeah.
So this kind of takes it, do we want to say anything else about space?
We're right at 1 minute left.
I know. So I guess that kind of moves us into the last thing we wanted to talk about, right? Which is the idea that, this is everyone's space.
Right, so while we can make efforts on the part of the library, we also ask that the students and faculty using the space also make efforts, that it's reciprocal.
Yes.
So
what do we call it? A cooperative relationship?
A cooperative relationship.
Look at all our terms today. We totally prepared.
Yes, we did. And we
guys.
Yeah.
Hold the phone. You heard it here first. Cooperative relationship.
In other words, expect that you're going to run into people who are different from you.
And be excited about it.
Be excited about it. It's one of the cool things about going to college.
Yeah, so expect it, and rather than just tolerate it, appreciate it.
Yeah, embrace it.
Yeah. So, that was kind of a heavy topic for today, but one that I think you and I have been wanting to talk about for a while, and I know it keeps, like, coming up, and we were like, we need to dedicate some time to it.
Yes. And it's something we're continuing to work on. The library as a whole is continuing to work on.
So don't think we think we're, like, there,
No.
because we know we're not.
I don't think you ever get there.
Yeah, is there a there? I don't think there's a there. But we know we're not really even there. So,
it's like enlightenment. You can't reach enlightenment until you realize you can't reach enlightenment.
Right. The crisis. But yeah, so we're trying to do better. But again, we need your help to identify this stuff, right? So because it's difficult for us.
Right,
by
so
ourselves.
there are lots of ways that you can reach out to us, but I know a lot of you really like to use social media, so feel free to leave your comments here on Instagram. We're also...
Direct message us, DM us.
Yes, message us directly. You can also email us if you're more comfortable doing that, or just come talk to us. Come to the library and ask to speak to one of us, or just express your concern to whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably, if you have a concern about diversity, maybe start with Stephanie or myself, and then... we'll maybe point you in the right direction to the people that
can help you
out. But yeah, because I know it's something that we think about a lot. So, so reach out. Come see us. Follow us on social media at what?
We are at marx.library on Instagram, but you're already here. We are on Facebook as Marx Library, and we are on Twitter as USA.
Can we just get rid of the Twitter account?
I don't even have to go into Twitter. I just have it linked to Facebook. But we have people who follow it. Mostly other
libraries?
Other libraries and other organizations on campus. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
So we are there.
Guess we're sticking with the Twitter for a while.
I never actually log into it.
I know. I'm like, who tweets? Okay, so what's coming up next?
I think we have another Librarians and Friends.
We do, I think,
right?
Yeah. Woo! And then,
I don't know
we are pushing through the semester.
We are. It's going by fast.
And next week will be Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, we might. Oh, is it Halloween on? It's on Wednesday.
We were lucky it was on Tuesday last year.
Yeah, but we'll probably take pictures of what we dress up, so we'll share them on social media, right?
Yes.
Halloween's an important day for Stephanie.
It is.
For me, we like Halloween. All right, guys. Well, we're right at 15 minutes, so thanks for joining us today, and we hope that this maybe gave you a glimpse into kind of what we see our role on campus like a little bit more than just like a warehouse of stuff.
Right.
It's far more than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let us know what your feedback is, if you have any thoughts or anything that you think we should be concerned about.
Yeah, please do. All right, guys.
All right, see you next week.
Thank y'all. Bye. Gotta stop it. Gotta end it.
There you go.
We have to double end it.
I know.